So we've looked at all of the basic data structures. Now we'll work with if statements in Python. So we've already seen it when we were understanding about what exactly is programming, right? So we've understood the if statement from the point of a concept. It's pretty simple. So you basically have a condition, and on the basis of that condition, you decide either you choose option 1 or option 2, or you might have more than one option, more than 2, or more than 3 options. So basically you have multiple options and you have to choose any one of those options. So it's either this or that or something else. So if else. So again, it's the same example over here. If it is raining, then obviously you can't play football. You'd have to sit inside and maybe watch Netflix. But on the other hand, if it is not raining, then you can go and play football. So this is how the if statement works. So now we'll work the first if statement. So what I'll do is I'll actually create two variables over here. So I'll name the first variable to be a and I'll assign it a value of 10. And then I'll give it a second variable and I'll assign it a value of 20. So we've got these two variables ready. Now I want to check if the value of a is actually greater than b. And if that is true, I want to do something. So if a is greater than b, given this condition, then I'll put in this colon and I'll hit enter. So now we'll have to make sure that the indentation is proper, right? So here this space which you see, this has to be given over here, else it'll give you an error, right? So I'll just click on enter over here and then I will give in what has to happen. So if a is greater than b, then I have to print out a is greater than b. Now let's see what happens. So this condition has evaluated to false. That means a is not greater than b, or in other words, 10 is not greater than 20, and hence the statement which follows the if clause is not printed. Now I'll check the opposite. So this time I will check if b is greater than a. So if this is true, then I'd have to print b is greater than a. So we see that this condition has been evaluated to true, and whatever follows after this condition has been printed. This is how the if statement works. So now I actually want to print something even if the condition is evaluated to false. So this is when I can use the else clause. So I'll do the same thing. I'll just type in if a is greater than b. So if a is greater than b, then I want to print a is greater than b. But since this will be evaluated to false, I will give in the else clause over here. So else, again, this has to be followed with a colon. Now I will print a is not greater than b, and I'll click on run. So we see that we get this result, a is not greater than b. So this is how we can work with if else clause. Now we also have something known as else if. So if we have multiple conditions to check, that is when we can use else if. So in Python it is known as elif. So let's work with that as well. Now let's say I've got three numbers over here. So I've got 10 which has been stored in the variable a, then 20 is stored in b, then I've got 30 which is stored in c. So I've got 10, 20 and 30. Now I want to check which is the greatest number out of all these. So I'll give in the first condition. So the first condition would be if a is greater than b and a is greater than c, then I'd have to print a is the greatest. So I'll just type in greatest over here. And if this fails, I have the elif condition over here. Else if I am going to check if b is greater than a and also b is greater than c. So this will check these two conditions. So if b is greater than a and b is greater than c, then I'll be printing out b is the greatest. Now if both these conditions fail, then I'll just use the final else clause and I will print out c is the greatest. Now let's see what do we get. So the result is c is the greatest. So let's understand this properly. So we have this first condition over here. So we are checking if a is greater than b and a is greater than c. So is 10 greater than 20? No, it's false. Again, we are checking if 10 is greater than 30. Again, that is false. So false and false is evaluated to false, and that is why the statement is not executed. Then we come to this elif clause, and here we are checking if b is greater than a. So is 20 greater than 10? That is true. Then again, we are checking if b is greater than c. So we are checking if 20 is greater than 30, which is false. So true and false will again evaluate to false. That is why this is also skipped. Now, since both of these conditions fail, we'll come to the final else clause and we'll just print out c is the greatest. So this is how we can choose among many options with the help of if else. Now we'll see how can we use these conditional statements with a tuple, list and dictionary. So I'll create a tuple over here. So tuple1, and let me store some values inside this tuple. So let's say I've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now I want to check if an element is present inside this tuple. So I'll type in if 2 in tuple1. This means that if 2 is present in tuple1, then I just want to print 2 is present in the tuple. Let me see what we get, right? So 2 is present, and that is why we get this result. Now if let me just check if 6 is present. So if 6 in tuple1, print 6 is present in tuple. And if this is not true, then again I'll go back to else, and then I'll print out 6 is not present in the tuple. So we get this result. Since 6 is not present in this tuple, this is what is printed. Now similarly, we'll work with the if statement with the list. So if with list, I'm just adding a comment over here. Now again, I'll create a list and I'll name this list to be equal to L1. So I'll put in square braces over here. Let me give in some values. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So I've got this particular list over here. Now I actually want to update a value in this list. So I want to check if the value which is present at index number 1 is equal to 2. And if it is actually equal to 2, then I want to add 100 more to it. So if L1, right? So this is index number 1 actually, right? So this is index number 1. If L1 of 1 is equal to 2, then I want to update it. So L1 of 1 would be equal to, this would be L1 of 1 plus 100. So I have updated this. Now let me print out L1 over here, right? So since this is the value which is present at index number 1 is actually equal to 2, we were able to successfully update it. Now let's modify this. Now, let's say I want to modify this over here. So this is at index number 4, right? So I want to check if the value which is present at index number 4 is equal to 10. So if it is equal to 10, then I want to add 100 to it. But on the other hand, if it is not equal to 10, then I want to add 500 to it. So L1 of index number 4 is equal to L1 of index number 4 plus I'd have to add 500 to this. Now let me just print out L1. Right? Since this condition was evaluated to false, that is, the value which was present at index number 4 is not equal to 10, we came to the else condition and then we added 500 more to this last element and then it became 505. Right? Now we will combine if with a dictionary. I'll comment again. So if with dictionary. Now let me create a dictionary over here. So I'll name this dictionary to be D1. Let me add in some values. So let's say the key is A over here and the value is 1. Then we've got the next key to be equal to B and the value is, let's say, 2. And then we've got C over here and the value for C is 3. So we've got this particular dictionary over here. Now I want to check if the value for the key B is equal to 2. And if it is equal to 2, then I want to add 100 more to it. So if D1 of B, so if this is equal to 2, then I want to add, so D1 of B would be equal to D1 of B plus 100. Now let me print out this new dictionary over here. Right, so initially the value of the key B was equal to 2, and using this if condition, I was able to add 100 more to it.